food cooked very rapidly and served on the table. A lot of research was done on the non-ionizing nature of microwave radiation, and that non-ionizing nature was concluded that the person who uses the microwave is safe from those radiation and therefore he can use it. And then it was said microwaves are safe for humans. But I didn't find any research on the effects of microwave on the food, except one. And that was by a coincidence. There was a chemist who published his data, and that chemist said that he was conducting experiments on glucose and a glucose-like solution. Now you all know that glucose has two types of isomers, they call it. Glucose L and glucose D. You all know that is called glaxose D or glucose D. The D is the dextro form and it looks like this. And L is the levo form which looks like this, which is a mirror image. Every molecule in nature has two images, one is a mirror image and one is dextro, one is levo. So you will find the prefix D, dextro, L, levo, and D and L are mirror images. Now glaxose D or glucose D or the D variety of glucose is the glucose that our human being survives on. Our enzymes, which are like a lock and key, this is the food, this is the enzyme, like a lock and key, they fit. If the food is the right food, the enzyme locks, breaks it up, and it gets digested, gets into the system, and makes it strong. Now, what does microwave do to glucose? Is what he discovered, this chemist. He used to heat his solution in the hot air oven, and then he would conduct the experiment, and he found that it's doing very well. One lot of his chemicals were left to be warmed, and suddenly his hot air oven stopped working. And when it stopped working, he said, why not I use my wife's microwave? It does the same thing. And he put the solution in the microwave, got it heated, put it in the experiment, and it wouldn't react. And he said, hey, this is not possible. They all reacted before, but why are they reacting now? And then he studied that molecule under whatever instruments he had, and he discovered that this glucose D had become glucose L. Because of the massive vibration, it took a somersault and became the mirror image. And now the enzymes didn't recognize it as food, and therefore it was not being digested. So if that's what's happening to our food, all our D food is becoming L food, then when you microwave your food, what food are you getting? None of your food is recognized. When that goes into your system, you can't digest it, and then you may have an epidemic of hyperacidity, indigestion, gas, constipation, and so many other diseases, plus vitamin B12 deficiency, D3 deficiency, and whole lot of other diseases which have no link to food, or is just a conclusion that the food is wrong food, but not that we are destroying it. Now this is the only thing that was published, but because there is a massive pecuniary interest in microwave cooking, this has been hushed and never showed up. It never showed up in other literature. But this is just to illustrate to you how non-ionizing radiation has effect and how it works. The cell phone radiation is the same as non-ionizing radiation. It is non-ionizing radiation. And therefore the cell phone, which emits also the same radiation, has effects on us. Having understood what non-ionizing radiation is, now we come to the brass tacks, which is the cell phone technology. There are two aspects to it. One is the cell phone itself, which we carry so dearly next to us. And the other is the transmitting facilities all over the city. You know that a cell phone can be a transmitter and a receiver. When you speak into it, it sends your waves through your phone to a receiving station. From the receiving station, it sends to a switching station. Am I right? And from a switching station, it goes to a transmitting station. And from the transmitting station, it finds the phone which you are looking for and then sends the waves to that phone. And this takes a massive a massive exercise in locating, because your phone has to find one receiving station, then the receiving station goes to switching station, from the switching station to the transmitting station, and then to the phone which you dial. Can you imagine, with 1 million users, how many such exercises are going on continuously, and how we are surrounded by crisscrossing radiation all the time in this city? Now, when you use a cell phone, it sends radiation. The towers which are there are sending more radiation because they are reaching out to all the cell phones. That's where the problem starts, and that's where we started working on this whole subject, reading about it, and then when we learned of the horrifying truths, we started educating people. Under no circumstances have we to think that this kind of an exercise is something that's against the cell phone technology. We're not against it because each one of us are holding the phone and using it to our advantage every day. But there has to be some kind of a balance, and that balance is what we are here for. Now, when you use a cell phone, the radiation that is emitted, when the phone is quiet, it's on but it's quiet. It is continuously emitting some radiation. It's like a whisper to all the towers in Bombay that, listen, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Because the tower hears that and says, like I came from Andheri, the tower near Andheri knows that I'm there. Then when I drive in the car and I come to Khar, the tower at Khar knows that I'm there. And when I drive back right up to here, the towers here know that I'm here. So that it can facilitate my communicating with anyone. And that's the radiation that is going on when the phone is quiet. But when I receive a phone, suddenly there is a massive radiation. Because now it is catching some active waves. And those waves are affecting us. And then as we receive the phone, those radiations, they stabilize at a higher level than rest, but lower level than reception. And that radiation is continuously impinging on us. Now that radiation has symptoms on us. I'll tell you the symptoms. For example, when you speak on the phone, you speak for about 10 minutes, you find your ear becomes hot. Many people used to say, because you hold next to the ear, that's why it feels hot. But you hold a landline next to the ear, and if it's not a cordless landline, if it's a corded landline, you hold it there for 2 hours and talk, nothing happens. But this cell phone, when you talk for 10 minutes, you find your ears red, your ears hot. The reason is because it's the same microwave radiation, and it's impinging on the soft tissues of your ear and making them vibrate, and as they vibrate, they generate heat. And in 10 minutes, you have your ear that's hot. In half an hour, it's really hot. So you have to move it from this ear to this ear. The same thing happens on the eardrum. And the same radiation that goes to the eardrum makes the eardrum vibrate. And it goes to the balance apparatus, which is the vestibular system inside. And that makes it vibrate. And those fine hair cells that dictate to us balance and hearing are in the process of this non-ionizing radiation. Over the years, they get damaged permanently. And therefore, first you get a ringing sound all the time. And that's called as the ring anxiety. Ringxiety is the new word. It's a tinnitus, but it's called ringxiety. Because you keep thinking your phone is ringing. Because you get that sound on your ear. Because those nerves are discharging without stimulus. Because they are sick. After some time you keep getting a tinnitus, which is a continuous siren ringing in your ear. And when in absolute silence, you'll be able to hear it loudest. In the noise of the city, you will lose it, but it's there. And that tinnitus is the first harbinger of oncoming deafness. As you go further, deafness can supervene. And as you go further, we have seen now that there's a very powerful association between the acoustic neuroma, which is a tumor of the hearing nerve, which is larger, much larger in those who have used the cell phone for a very long period of time. So these are local effects. Then there are effects of memory lapses. There are effects of concentration lapses. There are effects of momentary consciousness lapses. These also are known to happen in chronic cell phone users. Increased incidence of cataract on the side of using the cell phone has now been established. Because the lens is such a sensitive thing that when you listen to the phone on this side and the radiation keeps impinging on your eye, you can have an increased incidence of cataract on that side. Also, the incidence of retinal detachment and the floaters which one sees because of vitreous hemorrhage or vitreous cracks are also known to happen due to excessive cell phone usage. These are local problems when you hold it when you're talking. When you keep it over here, this radiation affects your heart, and your heart also works on electricity, and this also works on kind of electricity, and therefore there is a lot of impingement in there, and therefore you can get symptoms of panic attacks, you can get symptoms of palpitations, you can get a disturbed heart rhythm with extra beats, and you feel like your heart took a somersault, and these extra beats can become harbingers for arrhythmias in future. So it affects your heart directly when you keep it on this pocket. A very interesting finding, association, is that in today's times, young girls are experiencing a disease called polycystic ovarian disease. And this disease leads to irregular periods, non-ovulatory periods, and a kind of tendency towards overweightness, and also a kind of tendency towards hirsutism, facial hair growth, and all these are considered to be cosmetic domain, and therefore a lot of skin specialists have made millions on treating these things. But if you notice, a female always carries her cell phone in her hip pocket if she wears trousers, and if not, if she is keeping it at a far distance, it's much safer. But young girls carry these cell phones in their hip pockets, and the hip pocket is a few centimeters or a few millimeters away from the ovary. And that continuous impingement of radiation on the ovary prevents ovulation from happening, and because of that we get polycystic, with more cysts. The cyst forms but the ovum is not released, and that leads to infertility. That's why you see today there may be an epidemic of infertility, which is also very unusual, where in our times I remember that there was never a case of infertility, but in maybe 30 years ago. But today you find that after 3 months, 4 months, 5 months of trying, most couples have to go for IVF, IUI, and so many other kinds of things. So the only thing that changed in all this time was the cell phone. So these are some of the health issues which we can talk. I'm talking of those which happen on a day-to-day basis, and they happen much before actually cancer happens. So cancer can happen at a very late age, but all this will happen before that. And therefore it's very important for us to know that these things are not as benign as we feel they are. So this is as far as the cell phone is concerned. This phone is our property. But what about the things that are not our property? That's the towers all over the place. Now, the towers are emitting radiation at a much higher level to provide you with the convenience of coverage. When you have a good coverage, it means that your place is riddled with these radiations which can be picked up instantly at any corner of your house. So if you have good reception in your house, you can rest assured that there is a lot of radiation coming from various different directions. But when you have infrequent, I remember many times we used to curse. I said, this cell phone company is no good. I get no reception in this house. And that time we used to feel upset about it. But all of a sudden now we feel happy that in my house there is no reception, which means I am safe from radiation. So, if this cell phone tower, how does one find a balance between good reception and safety? I'm going to steal Professor Kumar's example here and steal his thunder. Or shall I leave it for you? The music example is a fantastic example. If you have a school which has to teach music to all the students, you buy one nice music system, put it in one class, somewhere in the middle of the school, and put it on volume 2. Only that class can hear. But if the whole school wants to listen to music at one time, then you crank up that volume to 10 or 12,